At my sister's birthday dinner, everyone ordered steak and lobster, then slid the $2,100 bill toward me. Mom said, "You don't have kids, it's the least you can do." I just stood up, tossed down $25, and said, "Then you can split what's left." Walked out smiling. The next morning, 37 missed calls, family group chat exploding, and a voicemail from my dad saying, "You've embarrassed us all." I just sent back one text. I, 32M, walked into that upscale restaurant thinking it was just another family dinner for my sister's birthday. The kind of place where they bring your water in glasses that probably cost more than most people's dinner. My sister had specifically requested this spot, and honestly, I should have seen the red flags when everyone started ordering like they'd won the lottery. My parents were there, my sister and her husband, my brother with his wife and 2 kids, plus my aunt, and uncle who'd driven 3 hours for this. When the server came around, I ordered a modest chicken dish and a beer. Then I watched in growing disbelief as everyone else went straight for the premium options. Lobster tails, prime ribeye, the works. My nephew, who's 8 and normally lives on chicken nuggets, suddenly wanted the surf and turf. Even my normally frugal dad was eyeing the wine list like he was celebrating a promotion. I felt this knot forming in my stomach, but I pushed it down. Maybe they were all just feeling generous for my sister's special day. Maybe I was being paranoid because of what happened last Christmas, when somehow I ended up covering the entire family ski lodge weekend, because everyone had cash flow issues that week. The dinner conversation flowed normally enough. Work updates, gossip about distant relatives, the usual family dynamics. My sister seemed happy, which mattered to me. We'd always been close, even if recent years had created some distance. She kept thanking everyone for making her birthday special, and I genuinely felt good about being there. But then the bill came. The server placed that black leather folder right in the center of the table, and I watched as everyone suddenly became very interested in their phones or the dessert menu. The silence stretched just long enough to become uncomfortable before my mother reached for it, opened it, and I saw her eyebrows shoot up. She slid the folder directly toward me with this expectant smile that I knew all too well. The same smile she'd used when I was 12 and she'd volunteered me to shovel Mrs. Henderson's driveway, because I was such a good boy. I opened the folder and felt the blood drain from my face. $2,100. For a family dinner. I stared at those numbers, trying to process how we'd gotten here. The lobster tails alone were $60 each, and apparently my brother had ordered a bottle of wine that cost more than my monthly car payment. My mother cleared her throat and delivered the line that's been replaying in my head ever since. She told me that since I didn't have kids, this was the least I could do. The way she said it, so matter-of-fact, like it was obviously my responsibility to fund everyone else's expensive tastes because I'd chosen not to have children. The table went quiet. Everyone was looking at me with these expectant faces, like this was perfectly reasonable. Like because I'd made different life choices, I should subsidize theirs. My sister wouldn't meet my eyes, and that hurt more than anything else. I thought about my savings account, the vacation I'd been planning, the emergency fund I'd been building. I thought about how many times I'd been the family ATM over the years, always stepping up when someone needed help, never asking for anything in return. I thought about how I'd helped my brother with his down payment, covered my sister's car repair last year, and how my parents still expected me to pick up every family dinner tab. Something inside me just snapped. I reached into my wallet, pulled out a 20 and a 5, and placed them on top of the bill. I told them that should cover my chicken and beer, and they could figure out how to split the rest. Then I stood up, pushed my chair back, and walked toward the exit. The silence behind me was deafening. I could feel their eyes burning into my back, but I didn't turn around. I kept walking through that restaurant, past other families enjoying normal dinners where one person wasn't expected to mortgage their future for everyone else's appetites, and out into the parking lot. Sitting in my car, my hands were actually shaking. Not from anger, but from this weird mixture of relief and terror. I'd never stood up to them like that before. I'd always been the accommodating one, the problem solver, the guy who made everything work. But $2,000 for a birthday dinner they'd essentially ambushed me with? That was my line. I drove home in complete silence. No music, just processing what had happened. Part of me expected my phone to start ringing immediately, but it didn't. The quiet felt ominous, like the calm before a storm. The storm hit the next morning. I woke up to 37 missed calls and a family group chat that had exploded with over 200 messages overnight. My phone was buzzing so aggressively, I thought something terrible had happened. But no, the terrible thing was apparently me refusing to subsidize everyone's luxury dining experience. The messages ranged from disappointed to furious. My brother called me selfish and accused me of ruining my sister's birthday. My mother sent paragraph after paragraph about family responsibility and how embarrassed she was. My aunt chimed in about respect for elders. Even my usually level-headed uncle got in on it, suggesting I owed everyone an apology. But the voicemail from my dad was what really got to me. His voice was cold in a way I'd rarely heard before. He said I'd embarrassed the entire family, that my behavior was unacceptable, and that I needed to make this right immediately. The disappointment in his tone cut deeper than any anger could have. I sat there listening to message after message, watching the group chat scroll by with everyone piling on, and something became crystal clear. This wasn't about one dinner or one bill. This was about years of established patterns where my financial boundaries had been completely ignored because I didn't fit their definition of having real responsibilities. The assumption that my money was somehow family money because I'd chosen not to have children was breathtaking in its audacity. The idea that my career success existed solely to benefit everyone else's lifestyle choices was something I'd apparently enabled by never saying no before. So I crafted my response carefully. One text message to the family group chat that I knew would either end this nonsense or end my relationship with them entirely. I told them that moving forward, I'd be happy to split dinner bills evenly or pay for my own meal, but I was done being the family credit card. I explained that my childless status didn't make me a walking ATM, and that if they couldn't afford to eat somewhere, they shouldn't order like they could. The response was immediate and nuclear. My phone started ringing within seconds. My mother called first, barely coherent with rage, demanding to know where I'd learned such selfishness. She brought up every time they'd helped me as a kid, as if 18 years of raising me somehow entitled them to unlimited access to my adult income. My sister called next, crying, saying I'd ruined everything and that everyone was blaming her for my behavior. That one hurt because I genuinely hadn't wanted to upset her birthday, but I also wasn't going to bankrupt myself for a party I didn't plan or approve. My brother's call was pure aggression. He accused me of thinking I was better than everyone else just because I made decent money and didn't have kids. He said the family had always supported each other and I was breaking that tradition over money, like money was more important than relationships. But then my dad called, and his approach was different, more calculated. He reminded me of family loyalty, of how they'd raised me, of obligations that went beyond dollars and cents. He painted my refusal as a betrayal of fundamental family values, and for a moment, I almost wavered. The guilt trip was professional grade. They brought up every family gathering they'd hosted, every time they'd been there for me, every way they'd supported my life choices even when they disagreed. They made it sound like refusing to pay a $2,000 dinner bill was equivalent to abandoning the family entirely. But here's what they couldn't guilt trip away, the math. In the past 3 years alone, I'd contributed over $15,000 to various family expenses, emergencies, and celebrations. I'd covered medical bills, car repairs, vacation costs, and countless dinners. I'd never asked for repayment or even acknowledgement. I'd just quietly handled things because that's what family did. Except it wasn't what family did. It was what I did. When my brother needed help with his mortgage payment, did he call everyone? No, he called me. When my sister's transmission died, did she start a family fund? No, she called me. When my parents wanted to take a cruise but couldn't quite afford it, who got the subtle hints until he offered to help? Me. The pattern was so established that they'd stopped even asking. They'd just assume I'd handle whatever financial gap existed, and I'd enabled that by never setting boundaries. Update 1. 3 days later, my sister called. Not angry this time, but tired. She apologized for the dinner situation and admitted she hadn't known the plan was to stick me with the entire bill. She'd assumed everyone would split it, or at least ask me privately if I was comfortable covering more than my share. She explained that my mother had convinced everyone I'd be happy to treat the family, that I'd been looking for ways to contribute more to family gatherings. The whole expensive menu ordering had been orchestrated based on the assumption that I was paying, which made their behavior make more sense while simultaneously making it worse. My sister felt horrible about it, especially after seeing the actual bill amount. She offered to pay me back for her portion, which I declined, but I appreciated the gesture. She also revealed something that explained a lot. My mother had been telling people I'd been complaining about not feeling included in family financial decisions, and that paying for dinner would make me feel more valued. It was a complete fabrication, but it showed how manipulative the setup had been. My mother had essentially created a narrative where sticking me with a massive bill was doing me a favor. Update 2. 2 weeks passed with minimal family contact. The group chat went quiet, the angry calls stopped, and I started to think maybe we'd all just move on. Then my cousin's wedding invitation arrived, and with it, a note from my aunt asking if I'd be willing to help with catering costs since the couple was young and struggling. The audacity was stunning. Less than a month after the restaurant debacle, they were already testing whether I'd learned my lesson or if they could resume the old patterns with a more subtle approach. I called my aunt directly and explained my new policy. I'd be happy to give the couple a wedding gift within my normal range, but I wasn't contributing to wedding expenses. She seemed confused by the boundary, like she genuinely didn't understand why I wouldn't want to help young family members start their lives together. That conversation revealed something important. They really didn't see what they were doing as problematic. In their minds, family members with more resources naturally contributed more to family needs. The fact that it was always the same family member contributing wasn't exploitation. It was just logical resource allocation. Update 3. The real test came at my nephew's birthday party 2 months later. My brother had planned an elaborate celebration at one of those entertainment complexes that cost a fortune. Laser tag, arcade games, catered lunch, the works. When the party ended and parents started gathering their kids, my brother approached me with an itemized list of expenses and asked what I thought would be fair for me to contribute. The total was over $800 for a 10-year-old's birthday party. This time, I didn't get angry. I didn't storm out or make a scene. I simply told him I'd already given my nephew his gift, and that was my contribution to his birthday celebration. If my brother wanted to throw an expensive party, that was his choice and his expense. The conversation that followed was illuminating. My brother genuinely believed I had an obligation to help fund his children's experiences because I had more disposable income. He saw my childlessness not as a personal choice that freed up my resources for my own goals, but as a resource that should benefit his family. When I asked him what he contributed to my major life events, he couldn't answer, because there was nothing to contribute to. I handled my own expenses, celebrated my own achievements with my own resources, and never expected family funding for my choices. The inequality of the relationship had become so normalized that they couldn't even see it anymore. The aftermath of setting these boundaries was predictable. Family gatherings became awkward. The casual assumptions about my financial participation stopped, but so did a lot of the casual inclusion. Invitations came with careful disclaimers about who was paying for what. Conversations avoided topics that might lead to requests for money. Some relationships improved. My sister and I found a new equilibrium based on actual reciprocity rather than one-sided financial support. We started alternating who paid for our occasional dinners out, and she stopped treating my help as an entitlement. Others deteriorated. My relationship with my parents became strained and formal. They couldn't understand why I'd chosen money over family harmony, and I couldn't make them understand that establishing boundaries wasn't choosing money over family. It was choosing self-respect over being used. My brother and I barely speak now. He's never forgiven what he sees as my abandonment of family responsibility during his children's formative years. In his mind, I'm prioritizing my own comfort over his kids' experiences, and no amount of explanation changes that perspective. But here's what I learned. Saying no to unreasonable requests doesn't make you selfish. Setting financial boundaries doesn't make you greedy. And refusing to subsidize other people's lifestyle choices doesn't make you a bad family member. That night at the restaurant, walking out on a $2,000 bill I never agreed to pay, was the beginning of reclaiming my own financial autonomy. The text message I sent the next morning established boundaries that should have existed years earlier. The family drama that followed was painful but necessary. It forced everyone to confront the reality that my resources weren't communal property, and that my different life choices didn't create obligations to fund everyone else's. Some family members adjusted to the new dynamic. Others didn't. But for the first time in years, when I walk into a restaurant with family, I order what I want to eat and pay for what I ordered. And that simple change has made family gatherings infinitely more enjoyable. The missed calls stopped. The group chat normalized. And I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is teach them that your generosity is a gift, not an entitlement.